Welcome to the Culture Think Tank, where we discuss the trends and analytics of culture facing us today. Our goal is to help provide insights and best practices organizations and leaders can use to strengthen their cultures during today's new normal. This week, we've been discussing the challenges organizations face when transitioning people to a work-home environment. I'm Will Lindstrom, and I'm here with my partner, Delise Crimmins. Good morning, Delise.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Doing well. So yesterday we talked about how working from home 1 to 2 days is very different than working from home for an extended period of time, and how organizations need to rethink kind of how to approach that. And after yesterday's discussion, we identified 4 business best practices I think are really important to highlight and will be important as we move forward with our discussion today. And those 4 things are: ultimately, executives and organizations need to help their workforce set up their functional workstation from home, because a laptop is a lot different than a workstation where you have 1 or 2 monitors. And if you want people to be effective long-term, they're going to need a more robust and more succinct workstation. The second point was we really have to think beyond the 8 to 5 work hour, because people, especially now with kids being home, they're going to be, it's going to be hit or miss. We've got to really rethink our calendar schedule. And then finally, we got to realize the new currency is flexibility and patience, that we have to address that. And those are critical to building trust. And ultimately, as we move forward, building trust and building a sense of belief is going to be critical to us moving forward.
Yeah, and trust we talked a lot about yesterday, Will. And I think that's what's going to be the platform for allowing our employees to get back to what we're calling a new normal. So creating some predictability, creating some opportunity for people to be able to know what's happening next, to be able to trust what the next move is from leadership, since none of us know what the next move is happening around us. So that trust platform is very important. We're lucky today. We have a good friend of mine, as well as a business leader who has deployed his workforce, I think last week, to work from home. And I want to introduce my friend and colleague, Jim Erben, who owns Erben Associates. They're an exit and succession planning firm for privately held businesses out of Austin, Texas. Welcome, Jim. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Absolutely. We're glad you're here. So I know I've worked with your firm extensively and know the tight culture that you have. So I want to talk to you about how you're managing that. But let me go back to, I think it was last week, when you made the decision to send all of your employees to work from home. Tell me a little bit how you handled that transition and how that's going for your employees.
Well, actually, they made the decision that I needed to get out and get isolated first, because there's not really much of a backup with me. Each of the people in our organization have backups. So we made a decision last Tuesday that we were going to transition out immediately out of the office, even before the whatever shutouts and everything that we have these days mandatory. And so we literally, Tuesday of last week was our last day in the office. We have been remote ever since. Everybody's been very effective with it, doing a very good job. We also have a lot of practice in this because we had prepared, not for a pandemic, but we had prepared everybody in our organization to be able to work remote. We bought technology to help us be very functional with it, because we're in 26 states. So we've kind of needed to learn how to be remote before we really needed to.
Good. So they were prepared for it, even though they didn't need to be prepared for it, right?
Correct.
So what have you done as a leader to help them? Like, what do you do things daily? How do you engage them on a regular basis?
A few things. Number one, we still have our weekly staff meeting on Mondays via live size, so we're all on video conference. We're all seeing each other. Secondly, I am encouraging them to limit the amount of phone calls they have with each other and instead use our technology to video conference, so that they're still keeping that same bond that we had that you helped us develop from our culture. In addition, we're having virtual lunches. Tomorrow we have a virtual lunch where everybody's going to be on live size, and we're bringing whatever food we are and laughing and talking business things, family things. We had one staff person that had a baby. So all of those kind of things that we're doing. We're also doing a happy hour, virtual happy hour, where everybody's going to bring their beverage of choice Friday at 5 o'clock. But from a business standpoint, and I guess let me back up. Those two things are really pretty critical because it's very easily to get yourself isolated, very easy to get yourself isolated. And I want to continue building that esprit de corps, which is one of our core values. So that's very important. I don't want to dismiss the fact that that's only social or recreational. There's a business purpose behind it. From a business standpoint, though, we are outlining tasks and projects that are going to be done per group, per individual each week from our staff meeting, and we create a list of Paul's doing this, Laura Beth's doing this, Brittany's doing this, so that all of the advisors know who they have to engage with in order for them to help support that project as well as me. So I need to know who I need to meet with. We need to block times. We're blocking times in our calendar several times a day to have these type of discussions.
Great. I love how you're keeping that culture alive. That makes me happy. What's the biggest struggle that you feel like your employees are having or that you anticipate?
Probably the inability to reach our clients proactively. What I mean by that is everybody's very scarce right now. A lot of people weren't prepared for this. A lot of our clients weren't prepared for this. Many of them were because of, we've been doing this, but they weren't prepared to run their business like this. They were prepared to meet with us in their business via live size if they're on the West Coast or East Coast, but not running their business. So there's a lot of panic out there, more than I thought, understandable given where we are. But the biggest challenge we have is trying to track people down and helping them enhance their business continuity plan and letting them know everything's going to be okay. From the investment management standpoint, same thing. We're just trying to call them off the ledge and not have people call me at 3:30 in the morning wanting to know the sky falling.
Okay. Well, I can imagine that the panic and the fear affects your business more than it does a lot of others. So good job in quieting some of that. We talk a lot about trust and culture. Tell me a little bit about how you think this is going to affect your culture. I know the values that you guys created have been what you have built your culture around. Do you think those values still, are they applicable? Are y'all still leaning on them in order to help keep your culture tight and intact?
I have asked each one of our staff people every week. So we have one of our core values that we'll discuss. In fact, this week it's esprit de corps. And give us some examples where you have exhibited esprit de corps among our group, among our co-advisors, among our clients. Next week, we'll have another one, and we'll cover that. And when I'm engaging with them throughout the day, I'll ask a question. Tell me about an example of teamwork, esprit de corps, whatever the core value is that I choose for them. And I just want them to keep it top of mind. And I feel like they are keeping it top of mind so far. There's still some more time to go, obviously, in this pandemic, but I think so far so good.
Good. So if you had one thing that you would impart, with the most important thing that in deploying your workforce to go work from home, if you were going to give advice, what's the one thing that you would want to tell other leaders in order to do this successfully?
Give them autonomy to get their jobs done. Create the structure or task to, we need you to get these 5 things done this week. And if there's anything you need from any of us, please let us know. And then give them the opportunity to do it, because it's very difficult to sit in front of your computer all day when you're used to going around interacting with other people in the office. Mm-hmm. That's why the video conferencing life-size system is fantastic, whichever system you use. But I want them to be able to have the autonomy to, I don't care if they get the project done at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, if they get so tired of sitting in front of this and they need to go take a break, they can go take a break. They do it at the office. And I kind of want to foster that same thing at home. We're just about 100% focused on just getting the job done, and we're pretty close to it.
Fantastic. Well, as usual, you're showing great leadership and great leadership in a time of crisis. So thank you for doing that well. Please tell your team I said hi, and thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. We're approaching the end of today's segment. As always, we like to close with the key takeaways and best practices. So I think what we've heard from Jim today really reinforces what we've been hearing overall, which is make sure that you're listening to your people and providing them the autonomy to get their job done without micromanaging them on an 8 to 5 calendar. I think we have to rethink that 8 to 5 calendar and give them the autonomy and task. The next is, support and help them make sure that they've got a workstation at home that is built for success. As we've heard from Jim, he built, they kind of prepped for this, so they had those workstations set up already. But for organizations that maybe aren't as well prepared, helping them get to that workstation will help them get back to their norm and help them promote that. Next, we learned that really promoting face-to-face becomes critical. We want to make sure that we don't get this sense of isolation and make sure that we're promoting face-to-face. As we've talked, not a lot of people like to be on camera all the time, but I think if there's anything right now, there is a time to be on camera. And finally, really get back to leaning on your core values. I think core values during this time of hardship is going to be the most important thing for us all, and keep focused on the core values by, one of the recommendations we've heard from Jim is focus on a core value each week, ask people to discuss and share how they're demonstrating those core values. So I think those are all really good points that we've heard. Very much appreciate your time, Jim.
Thank you, Will and Delise.
Please join us tomorrow. We'll be joined by Tim McClanahan, a partner with Becker Suffer McClanahan, a wealth management firm out of New Orleans. We'll be discussing how they are adapting to a situation where their business is deemed essential by Homeland Security. The employees were given the option. Some chose to work remotely, while others remain working in the office. It should be an insightful conversation. I look forward to tomorrow.
Sounds great, Will. Thanks for today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and stay safe, y'all.
Bye, everybody.